Contrast how careless we can be with our credit card purchases compared to how much more careful we would probably be if we were trading with the physical products of our labor. If our trade was carpentry and we'd spent long hours crafting a table, we probably wouldn't be too likely to make spur-of-the-moment exchanges for it. And one reason is that it just wouldn't be very convenient to do so. Trading with physical products we make means trade would have to be planned out, at least to some extent. I mean, we can't just take hundreds of things we made, hundreds of tables or whatever, and just carry them in our pocket. But with a credit card, with a credit limit of thousands of dollars, we can do the equivalent of just that. Now, another reason is that even if we made tables deliberately for the purpose of trade, we still feel a certain attachment to things we make. That is, we're not alienated from things we make. So we would probably be more thoughtful when it comes time to exchanging them for other products. It's hard to imagine that we'd barter them away for something trivial that catches our eye in the mall or wherever. It's even harder to imagine that we'd make so many impulse purchases that we'd actually go into debt, especially for things we don't need. But because we do feel detached or alienated from our electronic numbers, it's very easy to imagine us making so many purchases that we go into debt. And we don't even have to imagine it because we see it all the time, often in ourselves. Now, there are lots of other reasons for overspending other than just the fact that we use an alienating medium of exchange. Some people blame our consumer mindset on advertising and the way that advertising has worked its way into so many sources of today's media, and that advertisers will try to get us to buy things by trying to create personal dissatisfaction. They'll do this by trying to convince us that we have certain holes in our lives or certain spots of emptiness, and that we can have richer and more fulfilling lives, or maybe just less embarrassing lives, if we'd only buy the right mouthwash or use the right face cream or own the right laptop or go on the right vacation. Now, there was a recent article in the New York Times that looked at overspending from a different angle. This article is called "Given a Shovel, Americans Dig Deeper into Debt." And that was published July 20th, 2008. The main theme of this article is how credit card companies work hard to make it easy to go into debt, and sometimes even encourage massive debt. And that credit card companies spend hundreds of millions of dollars on advertising campaigns that make debt sound desirable and risk-free. One of the executives for a credit card advertising campaign is quoted as saying, "One of the tricks in the credit card business is that people have an inherent guilt with spending. What you want is to have people feel good about the purchases." Now, a good example of a credit card company's attempt to eliminate negative feelings about debt is MasterCard's Priceless campaign, where they give you the price of several items like buying baseball tickets and buying peanuts and Cracker Jacks or whatever, and then close with something like "spending time with your young children, priceless." And then they have that tagline of "some things money can't buy, for everything else there's MasterCard." Now, the message here, of course, is how much money you're spending along the way doesn't really matter, because by spending freely, you achieve something priceless in the end. Of course, more often than not, you could get a similar priceless experience without spending a lot of money. When it comes to spending time with your young children, certainly you can do that by playing games with them at home or in the park or wherever without spending money. But the ads try to gently guide us in a way that tells us that in order to have this priceless experience, we should be spending money all the time. But all that aside, I don't like to focus too much on blaming credit card companies or blaming advertising or blaming product placement in the movies, because I feel that's kind of like a heavy smoker blaming a cigarette company when he gets lung cancer, or an overweight person blaming McDonald's for his obesity. It's just the way that all companies stay in business is by making money. So we should expect that cigarette companies will try their best to encourage people to smoke. And we should expect that fast food companies will try to encourage people to buy as much of their food as possible. And expect that credit card companies will use whatever tricks they can to get people to overspend. But all they're doing is encouraging us, tempting us. But really, no one's holding a gun to our heads over any of these kinds of things. Now, this encouragement works best when it's on an unconscious level. So by moving our spending over from an unconscious level to a conscious level, that may be one of the best ways to stop ourselves from overspending. And that will be the subject of the next video.